So, yeah. Uprightness, our stability, our strength, dignity is what we constantly have to remember, connected with our basic goodness, which is connected, which is another way of saying we all have the seed of awakening in us. We are embryonic Buddhas, seed of Buddhas, who are temporarily mystified and confused and buffeted by the winds of ignorance, anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, and whatever. But that's temporary. It's not our deepest nature. Deepest nature comes from the more pristine, subtle space within our minds, which we hardly ever access deliberately. So let's rejoice again that we are here, and thanks to everybody. It's due to the kindness of others that we have these sessions, not just the organizers, but all of you. Without you, no session. Dependent arising, interconnectedness. We remember our connection with so many, many people, places, and situations, and how much we've relied on others in our life, and how much others have been connected with us, how much others also do depend on us and our input, our help. So I don't want to tempt fate, but just in case, there have been power cuts in the last few weeks, and I don't have a UPS system yet. So if there is a power cut, just meditate, please, on the kindness of others and whatever you may have found most useful in the meditations this week. But I very much hope that we'll be together for the whole of the session. I think in order to be of great benefit to myself as well as others, and develop strength, the spaciousness, the warmth and intelligence, which is going to be my best friend and enable me to be of tremendous benefit to others. For that, we need to have a stable mind, a mind that's not jumping all over the place. So we practice, first of all, the breath awareness for a little while, just to calm the mind. Just have a few minutes for that. Gently breathing in and out, being aware of the sensation of breath, connecting with the posture and with your place, slowing down, just being in the present, sense of letting go with the out breath. Now we can proceed to the main body of our reflection today, which is looking briefly at the benefits of cherishing others, the disadvantages of cherishing oneself. In all of this, we have to be careful not to misunderstand what is being said. We are not promoting neglect of oneself, or we're not talking of some kind of severe asceticism which puts oneself down or feels that one is, guilty and bad, so therefore we need to forget about ourselves and only care about others. This would be a distortion of what is being said. What is being said is that the mind that is preoccupied, self-centered, totally preoccupied with me, I and me and what is mine, that mind is going to forever lead us into dissatisfaction, pain, and suffering. And the state of mind which genuinely reaches out, opens up, and embraces others and their needs genuinely, not as some kind of burden to be, or task to be unwillingly performed, but to open up genuinely to others and benefit them. That kind of mind, that state of mind, is the source of all happiness, temporary and lasting happiness. So we obviously need to investigate this. And I think I could do no worse than I could do no better really than start by quoting something from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the spiritual director of Tushita, precious teacher, guide. In his book, Door to Satisfaction, he makes it very clear. This whole point becomes, I think, very clear. He's speaking about cherishing others, exchanging oneself for others. In other words, exchanging the attitude which only cherishes oneself for an attitude cherishing others. He says real happiness and satisfaction start in your life when you begin to live your life for others. He says whatever you're doing, working in the office, or cooking for others, whatever you're doing, if it's practiced for others to pacify others' suffering and obtain their happiness, then that brings real satisfaction and peace in one's heart. So now he explains why this is so, because we may have a vague sense that, yes, that makes some sense, but what's the basic, simple reason behind it? It says when we are cherishing ourselves, just caring only for ourselves, thinking only of oneself, like how can I be happy? How can I be free of problems? At that time, if we just over-focus on that, there's no peace and happiness in our heart at that point. There's only worry and fear, anxiety, one might add. Such a common contemporary malaise, yeah. You see only problems. You see, one begins to see things only in terms of problems. The mind is not relaxed at all. But in the next moment, if you were to change your object of concern to another person, genuinely change to your object of concern to another human being or animal, even if it's only one person, one being, suddenly it's like your heart is released from this iron chain of self-concern. It's like limbs being released from chains. When we get out of that very claustrophobic atmosphere of me and my pain, my happiness. When, me, it's very constricting. Don't take my word for it. This I'm sure, have experienced. We can relate to that. We can make ourselves very sick and unhappy by this kind of self-centered thoughts. If we don't practice awareness, we get just caught up in it. It like spinning a cocoon of sticky self-concern around us. It's very hard to then escape from. Becomes a habit pattern. Very hard then to break that kind of thought patterns. So as soon as your object changes from yourself to someone else, your heart is like released from the bondage of the self-centered thought, the self-cherishing thought. It's like being, released from chains, something which has been making us, suffocated, squeezed, we can't move. This openness comes. As soon as you change the object of cherishing, there's suddenly peace in the very depths of your heart. Right in the moment that your mind changes from self-cherishing to cherishing others, there's freedom, liberation, freedom from the tight bondage of selfishness. So just reflect on that for a moment. This may be, you may kind of agree with it, but feel that it's going too far. So see if you feel that way. Why? What's your own experience? What has really made you happy in life? Yeah. When we obtain what we want, what I want, how long does that make us happy? It's based on that wanting mind that feels somehow impoverished. We need and want so much. So therefore there's corresponding fear and anxiety about not getting what we feel we need for our happiness, for our protection, for our, let's face it, for our security. Somehow we feel so insecure, don't we, sometimes? One example, you may have experienced it yourself. Well, what I'm going to say, I'm sure applies to all of us in some way. We all have difficult situations, right, with people. Let's take our connections, our relationships with people, because they're so important to us, and they are, unless we are a hermit, we are interacting with people all the time, even if it's only online. But there's so many interactions and so many issues come up, don't they? When you feel someone is being whatever, unjust, unkind, domineering, bossy, whatever it is, it's so easy, is it not, when there is an interpersonal problem or some kind of problem, where people are involved. It's so easy to want to blame, right? Blame the other, find somebody who is at fault. We need that, don't we? We need to be able to attack something as a cause of the problem, almost to vindicate ourselves. How about if we took the advice of the teachings, which is expressed in another phrase that Lama Zopa Rinpoche uses, which is, when problems come, experience them with compassion. So let's look at this a bit. So you've had an issue with somebody. You feel they are behaving badly or they've said something or whatever. What would it be to respond with compassion? When problems come, experience them with compassion. So normally the self-cherishing, the mind which is fearful and protective of itself, self-centered, wants to justify oneself, protect oneself from blame or anything like that. One wants to feel secure. One is upset. Anger may have arisen. So therefore one reacts, doesn't one? In some way, we react towards the other, if not with actions and words, at least mentally we feel we have these unwholesome thoughts towards the other person. What would it be to develop an intelligent compassion? I mean, compassion has to be based on intelligence, right? It can't just be haphazard. It can't be just based on feeling sentimental or, not having if there's no firm foundation for compassion, then how can it survive? And the foundation for compassion is that opening and that understanding of the suffering of others, how others are caught up in their own net of disturbing thoughts, feelings, their own problems, in other words. Nobody misbehaves or behaves in a way we don't like simply because, there's not that they're acting out of their Buddha nature at that time, are they? They are behaving because they are caught in the snare, in the trap of the disturbing emotions, which we all have experience of. So when we cherish others, cherishing others means we understand where people are coming from. We understand they have problems too. It's not just me. Others may be going through tremendous pressure and pain that we have no idea about. Because, how would we know? We're not interested. We just see them as the person who is in the wrong, kind of the baddie. We don't care to. We're so caught up in our own problem, how we don't like what's happening. We have no concern for what's going on for the other person. It doesn't enter our mind very often. We don't care. Or if we think about it, we say, well, that's their problem. Anyway, they're still behaving very badly, blah, blah, blah. So what happens? We just reinforce our own habitual pattern of reacting with anger, with lack of wisdom. We again bury temporarily our capacity for openness and gentleness, our capacity for understanding, being willing to understand the other person. However obnoxious they may be on the outside, because even oneself looks obnoxious, right? When we're angry, who doesn't look horrible? When we are upset, anxious, who looks beautiful at that time? None of us. So we shouldn't be taken in by the appearance. Behind the mask of temporary ugliness due to the disturbing emotion, so much turmoil is there for the other person, don't you think? Just like it is for us. when we behave unreasonably, which we do sometimes, right? I doubt if we are all saints, all of us here. I'm certainly not. So this cherishing others, experiencing problems with compassion, this is extraordinary, vast, deep, and essential topic. Essential to understand and practice, don't you think? Brings us peace of mind, brings us more understanding of others, reduces the atmosphere of conflict in a situation. Yeah. We're responsible for our own minds. Yeah? Shantideva is very clear about that. He says we cannot possibly tame the whole world. We cannot possibly cover the whole world with leather. Yeah, he says that famously. We can't cover the whole ground with leather, but we can wear shoes on our own feet, which will solve the problem. So we're responsible for our own minds. But by responding with compassion, it also helps the other person. Don't you think it helps them also to de-escalate? Although you keep on pouring oil on the fire, this gets worse. Makes us feel wretched, makes others feel wretched. Literally in this world, anger and so forth, especially, which is like a fire, burning up this world. Like this world is burning with the fire of our greed, the fire of self-cherishing. In a famous teaching, the fire sermons, often called, the teaching Lord Buddha gave at Gaya, one of the very few teachings he gave in the Bodh Gaya area at Gaya, on a hill, which you can still see as you enter Gaya from Bodh Gaya on the river road. He said, everything is on fire. The world is on fire. The senses are on fire. The eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, they're all on fire with this grasping, craving, grabbing attitude, grasping at the objects, searching for our own satisfaction. So he used that analogy of fire. I don't think it's a coincidence that right now so much of the world is on fire. That it's climate warming, climate heating. That is the problem. It's not a problem that we're getting colder, we're getting hotter. It's like fire, the burning of that selfishness, aggression. So just some food for thought. Apologies to those who wanted a quieter session. I can understand the need for silence and quietness. For that, I'm afraid we need to be disciplined enough to do some of our own quiet practice. Perhaps wanted to introduce and remind many of us of this topic of cherishing others, and the faults of being concerned with me and mine. So we can now have some discussion for those who wish, those who need to go, carry on with their day. I wish you a very good day where you're able to maybe remember some of these things, and remember that it doesn't mean we cannot be stern and strict with others, but in our hearts, I don't think we can really afford to give up on other people in anger, and just dismiss them. That wouldn't be so good. Wouldn't be, we need to see how don't we, that everybody is in pain of one kind or another. Everybody. It's not just me. And of course, we have to acknowledge our own pain. Sometimes we feel, what pain? We're in pain. Who among us doesn't have mental and physical pain? Some kind of anxiety or fear? If you don't, you're a very, very unusual and fortunate person. But you see, most people, especially those whom we feel are misbehaving and so forth, I think we will find they have a lot of pain. So this is not to forgive their actions. We can try to remedy things, but let's not give up on living beings. Let's not deal with them with anger and hatred. Let's feel as much as we can that bodhisattva spirit, opening up to others and beginning to understand what it means when they say the bodhisattva, begins to see all beings. It was very dear, very precious, like their own child. So, may our day be like that. When situations arise which would normally create tremendous irritation, anger, or fear, those emotions. Okay, some discussion, please. If you wish, some feedback. We thought this would be good at the end of the week to have some discussion for those who would like. So please don't hesitate if you would like. And Deepali Naidu sent a very, I think, important and wise message earlier, that between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So if we need to learn to create that space and not just lash out and react immediately to stimuli. Even when we hurt ourselves, we can be so brutal on ourselves. We curse ourselves for, touching something hot or cutting our finger or stubbing our toe. We, swear at ourselves instead of stopping and just taking a breath and then doing what's necessary to heal the hurt. We can be very aggressive, can't we? So to create some space for a wiser, more compassionate response. May not be our habit, but we might be able to develop it. So it would be good if there is some, okay, Priya, yeah, please.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for the session. This is exactly what I had wanted to hear, very rightly timed, and because I am grappling with this aspect of compassion. A question I have is, how do we be compassionate?
Whoops, I'm sorry. I muted you by mistake. How can we be compassionate, you were saying, Priya? Sorry.
Yes, sir. How can we be compassionate from a place of strength, especially if there is the possibility of a repeated pattern recurring, where we were compassionate and it was, if I wasn't met with the response that I was anticipating or probably kinder. So how do I be compassionate from a place of strength and be okay with whatever the response is? Does it require me to just ignore the situation and move on? Or should I, if it's a person, should I call them out? Or how should I go? Would I have to go about these situations to prevent them from happening if it isn't a good one?
That's a difficult question because it depends on you and that person and the particular connection and who they are. Only you may know exactly how that person can respond. Sometimes we have to be quite strict with people, and this is indeed something I myself find very difficult. It's one of the more difficult aspects of compassion practice, to be strict and stern with people who are taking advantage. So, only you can say what you might be able to get away with, in a sense. One of the main things is that inwardly, we do not give up on ourselves or the other person. We don't, in despair, just say, I don't care, or just lose it in terms of just giving up or getting very angry. We try and be patient and understand that that person has issues, problems, which you may very well understand very well, especially if you're living with that person, say, But if we don't know about their problems, we can intuit that they have issues because they're human beings, right? And being a human being, you're going to have problems. Being an unenlightened human being, you will have many, many, many fears, anxieties, problems due to the, power of the disturbing emotions. So at least inwardly, we maintain that understanding so that we don't kind of totally cut off that human being and say, I don't care about them. That, I think, would be damaging. But we have to see how what they're doing, you see, could be not only very detrimental to you, but also to other people and to themselves. If they keep on acting very badly, or you think they're acting in a very unskillful way again and again and again, then one has to remind them. And it is difficult, it is. I'm actually having this issue in my life quite a lot. But, if that person is your boss, then what do you do? Can you afford to, sacrifice your happiness at the office or your job? There could be all sorts of fears and issues involved. Sometimes we solve problems, sometimes we can't. As Shantideva says, if you can solve it, then get on with it and patiently solve it. If you can't, for the time being, solve an issue, why get worked up about it? It's not going to help. Just patiently be with the situation. Some situations we will never be able to change. Really. There's somebody I know who was advised by my teacher. He said, look, you have this very, very powerful karma with this person. They were a family member. You have to be so patient. It's not going to change in a hurry. It is a very deep, complex karmic situation with its seeds in the past. It cannot be solved in that sense to make everything fine. What we can do is protect our own mind from getting upset, giving up on others, getting angry, all of that, feeling despair in oneself that, oh, I couldn't change the situation. Sometimes we can't, isn't it? It's like death. It's like getting old and dying. Of course, we may not get old, but we're all going to die. Even Buddhas can't stop us dying. Buddhas can't stop us having, disturbed thinking if we're not going to do anything about it ourselves. Even the Buddha can't stop us, or from, otherwise they would. So we just have to develop more and more understanding and also let go. When something is not changing, when we cannot change certain situations, we have to let go and protect our mind, don't you think? Because otherwise we go crazy. We really go crazy because part of us wants a result. Yeah, we want a cure. We want this problem to be finished. Some problems don't finish like that in this life. That seems to be one of the lessons of our life. We cannot cure everything. Long term, yeah, we can become enlightened, but that doesn't mean you can cure a particular negative nexus, negative connection with a person in this life. In the sense, you can't stop it always creating problems. What we can stop is our unenlightened or our fearful and angry response to the problem. I don't know, sorry, very long-winded answer, but it really depends on the specific situation. But the basic
Yes.
thing is what Rinpoche said, experience it with compassion. At some level, we have to do that. Whether you're showing an angry face or wrathful face to prevent that person creating more harm, but inside there is a place where we don't wish them harm. We want them to be happy. We want them to be free from suffering. But that can only happen, I suppose, when we engage in more and more inner work. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Varsha ji.
Yeah, could I say something from the in this same context from the psychotherapeutic perspective?
Please.
Is just as you said, we remain compassionate at all times. So that is our action in remaining compassionate. But on the receiving end, for self-compassion, it is our duty to not accept or internalize the not compassionate or outright abusive behaviors of other people. So in balancing that, that's where the practice comes in, is to set boundaries, to protect ourselves and remain compassionate, maintaining a certain detachment and distance, because the behaviors of others shouldn't determine our identity or how we regard ourselves, because we know ourselves better. So I don't know if that helps from the secular psychotherapeutic perspective.
That's very useful. I think that's exactly spot on. Yeah. There have to be some boundaries. We can't say in the name of Dharma, oh, everything's non-dual, there shouldn't be a boundary. Of course, we need to set boundaries. Otherwise, people just trample on us. And that's not doing them any good karmically, quite apart from the damage to us. And I agree. If we're sensitive people, then we begin our identity gets distorted and twisted. We just accept how people are, behaving with us. So we need to be firm. Absolutely. We can't engage in, what might be called idiot compassion, where we just accept anything. Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Even, Dalai Lama once said, with people who are misbehaving, sometimes you just have to tie them up, take them to the police station, whatever. One can't accept destructive behavior, especially when it's harming more than just you, one has to, and also to protect oneself. Depending on which sutras you read and which teachings, there's a different emphasis on how much love and compassion one needs to, render to oneself. Certain of the teachings are very clear. We have to have a tremendous amount of love and compassion for ourselves, so that we don't become, unskillful martyrs to other people's negative behavior. Absolutely. But then in a quiet moment, we do reflect that this harm giver, as it says in those famous 8 verses of Training the Mind, is the real harm giver, is the one who is a precious jewel. That's the one who is showing us so many things, teaching us so many things. Patience, the nature of samsara, in case we forget and become complacent. And we see this, terrible behavior. And so we realize the disturbing emotions are so powerful in people, including oneself. But sometimes people are exhibiting it so powerfully, one cannot help but notice and say, oh yes, that's what Buddha said is the cause of suffering. The cause of samsara is this grasping and being dominated by the disturbing emotions and their karmic effects. Yeah, thank you, Varsha. You're a psychotherapist, or you've had experience of it?
I have a psychotherapy practice.
Thank you. K. Anushri has a message. She has this mysterious person K. I don't think that means Kabir. I think she means Krishnamurti, the great sage, is saying that the craving for experience is the beginning of illusion. Please, what does this mean? Well, let me ask you what it means. I think you are a teacher at Rishi Valley, so you are immersed in the teachings of Krishnamurti, being a teacher at his school. So craving for experience. And does this relate to our topic today, or is this just some other line of investigation you want to pursue? Are you relating this to our topic today, Anushri?
Sir, can you hear? So like you said something like along the lines, like you said something like our senses are on fire, something like that, and I couldn't grasp the whole thing, but something you said, right? Our senses are on fire,
That's what the
right?
Buddha had said, yes, yes. With the
So,
fire of craving, the fire of desire, the fire of craving and wanting, yes. They're ablaze with that.
Yeah, can you repeat that? I didn't understand that also.
Well, when you look at something, you look at it with desire or aversion, with hatred or with grasping, desire. That's it, but the sense is on fire. It's not pacified. Your eye sense is looking at something and making a big deal out of it, and creating a big delusion out of it, acting with delusion in respect to that visual object in this case. So in that sense, it's on fire. It's on fire with the power of aversion, anger, lust, jealousy. It's like being on fire because it's not peaceful. It's hot and burning. That's what it means. So all of our sense powers are subject to being dominated by the disturbing emotions, which are always in the background, feeding them. So we have to be very careful. So that's why we need to always remember intelligence, compassion. Otherwise we get carried away by our senses, which are right now the slaves of our disturbing emotions, especially the self-grasping, ignorance, and the attachment and anger that stem from that. I think that's quite clear. That we've heard many times before. Yeah.
So then that can be connected with this line, right?
Meaning?
So you explain, please.
Which thing?
Like the thing which I wrote in the chat box, that line, it can be connected with this concept, right? That our senses are on fire, right?
That's right. Yeah. What don't you understand about that?
So can you now I I mean like
things are like an illusion. We're not seeing things clearly. We are never seeing anything clearly. We samsaric people, because it's always through the lens of attachment, anger, and ignorance, seeing things as very solid and real when they're not. And our example here, from what I've been saying all today, is that we see someone behaving badly and we see them as some kind of inherently bad, solid, independently existing bad person from their own side. Whereas in fact, they are a dependently arising, suffering, temporarily disturbed person. That's what they are, ever changing moment by moment. They could have been your friend yesterday, and now today they're your enemy because of certain factors arose. So, things are always like this, coming and going, changing moment by moment. The bottom line is we're not seeing things as they are. We're not seeing clearly, which is the meaning of vipassana, right? Seeing clearly, insight. We don't have insight. We have deluded sight, deluded hearing, deluded smelling, tasting, touching, because everything appears very solid from its own side, good, bad, or boring from its own side, whereas everything's dependently related, depending on causes, conditions, and of course, depending on the state of our mind. So in that sense, what we're relating to is an illusion, because we're not relating with what's there. We're relating to what our mind is projecting And why is our mind projecting something false? Because our whole psychology right now, our whole mental apparatus is dominated by ignorance, seeing things very solid, grasping at the rainbow like a child might want to grab the rainbow, and cry when it can't grab the rainbow, cries when the sandcastle is broken, is destroyed by the incoming tide or by another child. We're like children all the time. Basically, we are like children with their sandcastles. Also that, yeah, K could also mean, as Varsha says, craving experiences as different from being non-judgmentally open to experiences as they occur. So the craving being the craving being the key word. Yes. This point also is that our mind is ever distracted and wandering and wanting. It's hard for the mind to stay calm and clear and still and open, which is of course very much a Buddhist statement as well in a sense. But because we're not attentive to the present moment, the mind is constantly tripping here and there, getting caught up, getting upset, getting sucked into things. Yeah. Maybe one or two more questions from someone who hasn't said anything yet, if they wish. Yeah, Nivita?
Yeah, can I ask a question, Kabirji?
I think so. Being the main organizer, you can.
So I had a question actually about our previous meditations this week, about
Good.
the kindness of our mothers and our parents. I found myself having some difficulty with that for the first time, probably because I'm having a lot of difficulty with my parents right now, with both of them.
Yeah.
So I found like a sort of block in being, all I could see was sort of like, you know, the selfishness of raising kids for their own purposes, that, you know, in their image of what they wanted, and even the education was what they wanted. So I sort of got stuck in that thought loop.
Yeah.
And I was not, even just in general. So I found it really difficult to break out of that thought. Or
Just
the
an example. Yeah, it's an example. In more natural, older societies, maybe there was less complexity in a way, and it was easier for mothers and fathers to show a natural kindness, unaffected by the complexities and difficulties of modern civilization, urban living, etc., etc. One could say there was certain simplicity then, so that the teachings could speak about that, and most people would understand it and agree with it. Just as, you know, Dalai Lama was very, very, very amazed that there was this thing called lack of proper self-esteem or even self-hatred in Western societies. So people had this thing called, you know, low self-esteem, self-hatred. He just couldn't understand that. He said, we didn't have that in Tibet. So when Western teachers mentioned that to him, he was nonplussed initially. Well, and the point here is that there's that, but even parents who are, trying to mold us in their image and see us as their future, you know, insurance policy or security for the future, even then, I can understand us being controlled or exploited even to a certain extent by parents. So at that point, we really have to just see how they did help us. And, you know, our mother, however much we think she may have faults, did have us in her womb for 9 months probably, and then took care of us when we were born. Took care of us enough that we didn't die. If someone else took care of us immediately, well, she still gave birth to us. It's because of her body and her discomfort and suffering during pregnancy and probably birth too, that you know, we were born. and are able to have this precious human life and have met the teachings. So in that sense, mother and father, very kind, just for having provided this body, even if they didn't do anything after that. And of course, I'm sure your parents did do quite a lot after that, even though it may have been with a certain purpose in mind, which isn't an altruistic purpose. But then that should make us also feel, wow, use the teachings to see how our parents are also suffering under the power of the disturbing emotions. So they are kind to have given birth to me, and also to show me how we are under the power of the disturbing emotions. Yeah. But if it really is very difficult initially to take parents, take someone else. Take someone else who is kind to you. Someone who's been kind to you, in life. And the mother is only taken as a universal kind of symbol because she has to be kind to some extent, just for the child to survive, and to be born. So the kindness of not, of allowing her pregnancy to come to the full term. That's a kindness. So much now in the world about abortion rights and so forth, and one understands it, and one understands in the United States right now the tremendous agitation against the Supreme Court maybe overturning old legislation which was protecting the rights of women. But of course, if you look at it from the point of view of the fetus or that little being in the womb, then of course we could say in general, it's very kind if a mother gives birth to us, because she may have had second thoughts, it might have been very difficult, she may have had many anxieties, wondered how she could take care of the child, especially if the father, say, left before the child was born, let's say, then the mother still has the child, all these things. We can think of many, many kindnesses of the mother if you look at it from a certain perspective. But yes, is she a perfect being? No. Is she a bodhisattva? Probably not. But, did you really expect that your mother would be that? And do we have to feel her kindness only if she's a bodhisattva? Perhaps we can think, look, as a disturbed, ordinary human being, she still did so much for me. So that's amazing, because for bodhisattvas, it's easy. For bodhisattvas, it's easy to be kind. That's what they are. That's their nature. Just like water is cool and wet, fire is hot and burning, bodhisattvas are kind and generous. So it's not difficult for them. But our mothers who are not bodhisattvas, who are suffering, deluded people in that sense, still they took care of us to some extent. Maybe one can also think that way. Wow, you know what I mean? Not saying it's easy. Not saying it's easy. One can feel very hurt by our parents. They're so close to us. So, they can be very annoying as well. But if one can repay the kindness of our parents, then the Buddha said that is one of the most amazing, most powerful positive karmic actions we can engage in. It's benefiting bodhisattvas and Buddhas and helping them and helping our parents, because they are very powerful karmic objects, obviously. Our body comes from them, If you were a test tube baby or something like that, but even then, surrogate mother, an egg was implanted in a woman's womb who's not the actual mother, but she bore that egg and the fetus developed and she gave birth. So even a surrogate mother, very kind. The day when we are totally just made from sperm and egg in machines, like in the novel 1980, and like in Brave New World, if you look at that book, horrific book in many ways, written in 1932 by Aldous Huxley about the future. So, wow. Then, of course, then the mother becomes something very impersonal. And in that book, amazingly, the word mother is a swear word. It's not allowed to use the word mother. They've dehumanized everything. Everything is machine made. So let's be thankful, I think, that we haven't got to that world yet. where the word mother and mothering and caring for others is considered a crime, almost a crime, you know. So if you want to read about the kindness of the mother, it's interesting to read those kind of books. Dystopias, nightmare future scenarios, I think, where the milk of ordinary human kindness is not respected, not acknowledged. Everything is AI and machine made. Let us beware of such a world, I say. Does that help at all, Navitaji? Sorry, long-winded answer as usual. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Good luck with your parents. It's, I'm sure one can elicit good things from them, and yeah, just make them happy, because don't forget, you're part of their security package, maybe. For children are for most parents, and they feel insecure. So just try and be kind and help them over their basic insecurity, which they feel. We all have our own methods for trying to be secure, and for parents, children become one of the huge reference points that with which they identify themselves and their security. And as you get older and more independent, maybe it gets more scary and fearful for the parents. And maybe they worry, you know, who will look after me when I'm older? And also they have all these worries about you, maybe. What else, folks? Yeah, this thing really very powerful. What Sunil Joshi has is his what you call it, icon there. Don't judge my choices without understanding my reasons. Yeah. Of course, if your reasons are based on ignorance, and one can see through them very clearly that they are based on ignorance and attachment, then yeah, we don't judge, but we can gently suggest that there's another way of doing things or looking at things. But yeah, snap judgments about people, putting them down without understanding where they're coming from, which we do a lot, that's very destructive, isn't it? Oh, they're not a good person. Oh, they're wonderful, you know, because they just said something we agree with, or they happen to have the kind of face or fashion sense that we like, then we immediately say they're great, they're wonderful. And then someone who we, you know, doesn't agree with us totally, we put down. Yeah, snap judgments, we're making them all the time. Whenever you're tempted to judge, what's this? Always remember, everyone has not had the kind of opportunities and advantages that you have had. Exactly. So many things we can remember when we want to judge someone. And Shantideva says we should just stop and create that space that had been spoken about earlier. When you feel the need to judge or put someone down, Shantideva says in one of his chapters, just stop and imagine that you're like a piece of wood. So just stop, and in that space, in that gap, some more reasonable, some wisdom may intervene and prevent us from creating harm, a harmful reaction. That was Gatsby, I see. Yeah. Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. Yeah. Yeah, there's a good movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, Gatsby, I don't think didn't take full advantage of his father's advice. And he said, I mean, the last line of that novel is one of the my favorite lines, although very disheartening in one way, but one of the lines of literature I remember the most, because in that novel, The Great Gatsby, which is also mentioned, I think, in the film, the last line is that, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. The sense of being the prisoners of our past, of our habitual patterns, of our fears and neuroses coming out of our former actions, and sense of whatever guilt or fear, totally dominated by the past. So it's like we're going against the current, just taking us back again and again into the past, which we have to let go of. We have to, we have to be fresh. We have to be in the present moment. If we dwell in the past, then of course, we may not be able to forgive someone. We may not be able to have a fresh kind of connection with someone whom we have already judged and declared to be this, that, or the other. So dwelling in the past in that sense is so harmful. In terms of positive traditions and qualities that may be coming through ancient wisdom and so on and so forth, and then of course there's something else. A lineage or parampara, which is very important in some spiritual traditions. That is a very creative, positive use of the past, because we're talking about a wisdom tradition that is something that can be made alive in our minds. It's not something dead. That's something else. But the past for us usually is something that is, in a sense, dead and like dragging us back into a hole, into a quicksand almost. But if you're remembering your teacher or someone who really inspired you in the past, that's another matter. That could be very inspiring to remember something like that from the past. But often we get caught up in the heavy darkness of the past, things that cast a shadow over our lives. So the bodhisattva can't afford to let that happen, because the bodhisattva is there to be a lamp, a light for others, to be a boat, to be whatever others need for their happiness. So we have to be fresh and spontaneous each moment. We can't keep on thinking about our mistakes and getting dragged down by them. We have to purify our mind and carry on. That's the great thing about the bodhisattva path. We don't allow our mistakes to drag us down. We acknowledge them. We take the advice of the teachings and the teachers, and purifying them through various methods, and then we carry on. Because we don't carry on, we just get stuck, and then we're no use to anybody. We become depressed. We have to be taken care of by other people. I mean, of course, we'll need to be taken care of probably when we're old in some way, but you know what I mean? We're much more benefit to others if we don't allow ourselves to get stuck. Move on. Healthy regret, and move on. Take the antidote for a problem, for a poison, and then move on. That makes sense, doesn't it? But somehow guilt, negative regret, it just is so powerful. We can't get out of it, and then that becomes our identity, and a self-pitying identity. Then we think, oh, I can't do anything. I'm useless. I could never be a bodhisattva because blah, 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 blah. It's nonsense. From the Buddhist point of view, that's nonsense. We all have the Buddha nature. We can all pay attention in the present moment and begin to wake up, however difficult. Okay, I'm going to stop very soon. We've had over an hour and a quarter, and a lot to do today. I'm sure all of you have something to do today. So we could have one last contribution? Sunil Joshi ji, was that useful, the session?
Yes, it is useful for me.
Thank you for your quotation there. It's very powerful. I hope that
Yeah.
helps you in your life.
Yeah, it is helping me for past 5 years.
And not to judge others or even the politicians.
Yeah. They are our politicians are our servants actually.
They're
So
the
we can judge them. We are paying taxes.
Yes, you're paying taxes. They are. They're supposed
Yeah.
to be our servants. Yes. But don't send too many tweets in that regard, or
Yeah.
you may be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep. What else? I feel like going on a few more minutes. It's up to you folks. Nivita, if you're busy, we can stop now. If you have, yeah, Nivita is our organizer at the Tushita end. And thank you, whoever is there with you. One live participant. I guess we're all alive, but namaste. Vishad, anything? Where are you at the moment?
Home, Kabir. Parents' home.
Home is Meerut now.
Yeah.
It's like a hot sunny day there too.
Yes, very hot.
We're being promised 45 and 46 in Delhi soon. So I guess we have to maintain some kind of, don't judge the weather without understanding the reasons. Good Lord, yeah, I think we know some of the reasons now. Our own stupidity, our greed, our cutting down the Amazon rainforest and many other forests, our burning of fossil fuels, our constant desire for growth, our lopsided economy where many people are malnourished and some have so much they don't know what to do with it. Yeah, I think some of the reasons are there. And yeah, many reasons, from the personal to the social to the global. It's very complex. Very complex. We begin with our own mind, no? Our own softness, our own tenderness, and not to allow the this world, our busy lives, the kind of cynicism and competitiveness that we see and experience. Okay, we may have to participate in that to some extent, but let it not destroy our gentleness, you know, our kindness. That's very important. We have to maintain that kindness towards ourselves and others. Certain affection and softness, that's very important. Otherwise, yeah, the descent into total chaos and savagery will be very fast. So we have to, yeah, maintain the good heart and realize that the bodhisattva ideal can be actualized. Yes, did you want to say something?
I had a question.
Yes.
How would you describe what is being compassionate to oneself? What does it include? Where does one start from?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Some of the words were unclear.
What does it mean to be compassionate to oneself? What all does it contain and where does one start from?
Haha. When you have a little plant, a seed, you make a pot for it, you get good soil, and you put it there, and then you give it water, and you keep it in the right place, not too hot, not too cold, depending on the seed. And then you take care of it, you watch for it coming out of the soil, and then you give water. Some people even talk or sing to their plants. And basically you take care, you pay attention to the plant. So maybe we are like that. We have to take care. We may have had a life in which we had to work hard serve other people. And in doing that, we might have neglected ourselves, especially if you're a mother. Are you a mother? Yeah. And so maybe, for mothers, it's easier to spend a lot of energy on their children or husband or whatever, in-laws, parents, and then one could neglect oneself. And then one finds that the life one is living is something that is really being dictated by others' needs. And then there could be then some problem, some resentment, realizing you had not spent enough time for yourself. So compassion for oneself means also realizing you are a human being just as much as any other human being who deserves to be happy or wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, just because we say cherishing others is the source of happiness and cherishing oneself is the source of suffering, we don't mean that you don't take care of yourself. We don't mean that initially you must always have that sense that, I am also like a tender plant who needs caring, right? So say that plant you were growing was a people tree, right? Bodhi briksha. Okay, in the beginning, you have to take care of it. You have to protect it from the goats or the, whatever other pests. When it becomes bigger, you transplant it into the open ground. And of course, one day, 20, 30, 40 years hence, it's a huge tree in its own right, very strong, doesn't need the support of anyone. And in fact, it is giving support and shelter to millions of creatures, small creatures, and to human beings in the shade. And people are doing puja and, benefiting from the Bodhi tree and the leaves. And even Lord Buddha sat under a Bodhi tree. So you see what I'm saying? In the beginning, we need to take care of ourselves a lot, to show a lot of care and protection. Then naturally, I think we can become stronger and like a vast tree ourselves. Then we can shelter others. We can't do that when we're still small and vulnerable to the weather and to insects even, and to naughty children who just grab us and break us. We have to defend. We have to care for ourselves. We have to take care. You have to love yourself in the sense of feel some affection and not, and that can come more when we practice and gain more confidence. Then we don't feel that we are a lost cause. Sometimes we feel that we are just not worthwhile because of so many factors that we may enumerate in our negative, depressed moments. We may have a long list of what's wrong with us. But in your better moments, you can also think of all the good things and pay attention to when people speak of your good qualities. Don't just say, oh, no, it's not true. But, realize that you're someone who has good qualities as well. And take care of yourself, your body and then your mind. And this is terribly difficult, though, I agree with you, especially if we are psychologically someone who feels we need to redeem ourselves, or our identity is built up on helping others, which can happen, especially if you're probably a mother like that. You depend. Your identity is based on feeding others, clothing others, protecting others. And let's face it, other adults can often behave like big children, so you have to look you have to look after people as though they're a big child, and then you neglect yourself. So I don't know if this is making any sense. Yeah, so you have to feel, you are a worthwhile human being. You have to take care of yourself. People would rather see also, you would rather, when you look in the mirror, see a happier face, a smiling face, and so would other people. And that can only come when you really are also taking care of yourself, when you feel good about yourself. And there's a natural radiance will come, isn't it? It's like there's a natural strength and welcome comes from a beautiful tree, Bodhi tree, neem tree, so many trees that just, you want to go and sit under them. You want to enjoy the shade and the ambiance that they bring. and the cool breeze that whispers through them. So like that, see yourself as a potential vast sheltering tree, or see yourself as a small plant initially that needs taking care of, not to be neglected. But again, balancing it, no? Because I hope in your life you have also felt some happiness in serving others. Yeah, it hasn't just been dry, unhappy kind of duty that you felt you had to perform. I hope there were moments of happiness and joy. It's said that mothers can get tremendous positive feedback from their children, especially when they're infants, which can be very rewarding, instantly rewarding for the mother. So, as well as very rewarding for the child. So there would have been moments when selflessly reaching out to others, you felt that happiness. Of course, maybe as children get older, then it's harder. They can be very ungrateful. They can be, they're separate, very separate, independent-minded. So then the mother feels that reason for living is not there anymore, whatever. So then we kind of take to religion or prayer. I'm just joking. Then we need to begin to really take care of ourselves in a deep way, in a healthy, wise way. Realizing that by calming the mind and generating, working with our potential, that's the best way to help ourselves, and the best way to help others. There's no better way. Of course, we can help others with insurance policies and food and shelter, and even give our children, for example, a house, so they never have to bother about getting a property themselves. We can do all that. But the greatest thing perhaps we could do is to plant seeds of lasting happiness and peace in our minds. And not just peace and happiness, but real kindness, love, which is a very difficult word. I don't know. I don't think I know what that word means, because I think it means something much more than just being a little bit kind or attracted to someone, or being kind to someone who is kind to me. But real love, real compassion, wow, we're capable of that. If we can create the causes for that, then we'll have everlasting joy. Yeah. So begin with giving yourself some time, and allow yourself to do things that make you relaxed and which you enjoy. Maybe you have more time now for yourself. May I ask, how old is your child or your children?
She's 6.5.
Huh?
6.5.
Still quite young, very young. So they need you a lot. So you have to balance that. And if you have someone, do you have someone who can help you with the child?
Somewhat, sometimes.
You have someone can help sometimes. So in that sometime, you need to help yourself. If you haven't seen a movie for many years, go to a movie. Go for a walk in the park when it's cool, not in the midday heat. That's for mad dogs and Englishmen, as they say. So enjoy yourself sometimes. Yeah, what can I say? Read something you enjoy. Don't spend time with people who appreciate you, and so forth. And read and meditate in a way that makes you also appreciate yourself. Yeah. So Nivita would be able to recommend maybe some reading for you. And hopefully these kind of sessions can be helpful for you. Thanks for coming to Tushita. Yeah, I hope it's a space which makes you feel comfortable and happy, where you can generate some good feelings for yourself and others. It's very important. I know our teacher prays very strongly that whoever puts their feet, steps into Tushita, finds happiness and peace and so forth. My teacher always praying like that for the centers to be beneficial to others. Okay, maybe we stop there. Thank you all very, very much. Our next session is Sunday morning, and Vishad Tomar, who is here, he will most likely be leading the session because I have a family commitment to my aunt and departed uncle. I have a puja at home, which I simply cannot and don't want to be absent from. So Vishad has kindly, I think, agreed, though he's looking a bit nervous. He's agreed. He's quite a shy and humble person, but he can lead something on Sunday morning at 11. And on Monday evening, we continue with our looking at Shantideva's great text. And Monday is also Buddha Purnima in the Southern Buddhist tradition, the Theravada tradition, as followed in Burma, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. So we'll have maybe a few readings also from the original sutras of the Buddha in our Monday session at 6:30. We'll probably still have it at 6:30. I don't know, we might start it a bit earlier, we'll see. And the center may be open also in the morning for people who want to come. We'll see, because Monday is anyway our Monday morning meditation, right, Nivita-ji? So maybe Vishad and I, whatever, we can organize some Monday morning meditation at Tushita itself, which is also on Zoom. Yeah, we could do that on Monday, since it's Buddha Purnima, full moon. Make the most of the full moon day. And then Tuesday will be a regular session at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, so that's our program in the next few days. I'm very grateful to all of you. Very, very grateful. Help me also make my morning meaningful. Otherwise, I would probably have had 2 or 3 cups of tea by now. So now you help me do something a little bit more meaningful. So thank you very much. Have a good day. And
Thank you, Kabir.
please remember Rinpoche's advice: when problems come, experience them with compassion. Compassion for yourself, which may often just mean taking a break, take a few deep breaths, don't go into a kind of spiral of emotion or response, reaction. Take a few deep breaths and kind of think to yourself, okay, this is an opportunity for me now to make friends with myself and to be friendlier towards myself as well as towards others. So that's, we can, as much as possible, engage in that, however difficult it may be. We can make a start. Just the aspiration is very powerful, don't forget that. Just wishing to do something, aspiring to do it with, deeply, that can be very powerful. That will lead to more and more action. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Sorry to keep you all. Been a long session. Have a good day.
Thank you, Kabir.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.